So, when comparing fractions and comparing them to 1/2, I'm going to go through my steps and identify the numerator and the denominator. So the denominator is the 4 in this number. And my second step is to split the denominator in half. So half of 4 is 2. If I wasn't sure, I could make equal groups, 2 equal groups, because we know that half has to be equal. And then I could split those 4 into the 2 equal groups. So I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 in each group. So half of 4 is 2. Once I know what the half is, then I'm going to look at the numerator, which is the 3. And I ask myself, is the numerator greater than or less than half of the denominator? So I have to ask myself, this numerator is 3. Is it greater than or less than 2? 3 is greater than 2. When I know that 3 is greater than 2, half of the numerator, or the half of 3/4, then I know that 3/4 is greater than 1/2. Let's try another one. So I'm trying to decide if 2/6 is greater than or less than 1/2. So I'm going to go through my steps again. I'm going to identify the denominator, and then I'm going to find half of the denominator. Well, half of 6 is 3. Again, if you're not sure, we're going to put it into 2 equal groups and then split the 6 into 2 equal groups. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that is 3. The next step is to identify the numerator, which is 2, and ask yourself, is the numerator greater than or less than half of the denominator, which is the 3? So I have to ask myself, is 2 greater than or less than 3? Well, 2 is less than 3, so I would look at it this way. The other thing that we could do is we could look at how we make 2/6, or how we make this fraction to be equal to 1/2. So if I'm thinking about 6th, I know that 3/6 is equal to 1/2. So I could compare 3/6 and 2/6. And I know that 2/6 is less than 3/6. So going back to my original problem, is 2/6 greater than or less than 1/2? 2/6 is less than 1/2. All right, let's try a third one. So this time I'm asking myself, is 2/3 greater than or less than 1/2? So again, going through my steps, I'm identifying the denominator, which is 3, and I'm going to look at that and split it in half. Now 3 is an odd number, so I can't split it equally. I can do 1, 2, but then I'm going to have the third one left over. So I would think about, well, I can't really put 1 over here and this one have a different one. So what if I split this in half? So I would have half over here and half on this side. So together I would have 1 1/2 as what would be half of 3. So 1 1/2 is half of 3. Next step, I'm identifying the numerator, which is 2. And I'm asking myself, is the numerator greater than or less than half of the denominator? And remember, half of the denominator is 1/2. So I know that 2 is greater than 1/2. I can go back to my original problem and I can say 2/3 is greater than 1/2. 2/3 is greater than 1/2.